Me? Why, I'm the media. The media Goose. Shit, that was backwards. Oh, me? I'm the Goose. The media Goose. It was better than Pierce Brosnan. What is going on, y'all? Welcome back to the Media Goose channel. It is I, your friend, the Media Goose. And the goose is loose, baby. Ha! I am here today to talk to you about Casino Royale. That's right, my first movie review on the channel is Casino Royale. It's a 007 James Bond movie, but in a lot of ways, it's not. It subverts the expectations of previous Bond movies. For me, I'm a 90s kid. I grew up in the 90s, so I took in all of the Pierce Brosnan Bonds. I've never seen the Sean Connery Bond movies. Maybe I will someday, but I don't know. I'm not that interested in them. But in the 90s, the Pierce Brosnan movies, for me, as a child, I didn't take them seriously. I didn't understand the fact that they were different movies from Austin Powers. So Austin Powers is pretty clearly a spoof of the spy genre, most directly James Bond. And as a child, they were so similar in quality, I couldn't tell the difference. For me, those movies, Bond wasn't a serious character in the way that Daniel Craig makes Bond in this movie. As a kid, those movies were just kind of like, I don't know, bubblegum summer hits. Like, they were like Marvel movies nowadays, but not the higher quality Marvel movies, more so like the beginning of the MCU, when it was kind of, I don't know, cheaper. Those movies just, Bond is a womanizer. It's all very 90s, very era specific. And this movie just totally goes in a different direction. To me, I've heard this comparison before, and I think it's the best comparison for what Casino Royale meant to James Bond. This is the equivalent to Batman Begins to the Batman series. Before Batman Begins, most people considered Batman to be like a defunct property. After Batman Forever, and especially Batman and Robin, most people considered it untouchable. It was so diminished in its quality. It was so far away from what it started as with Tim Burton. And then Batman Begins happens, and it totally goes the other way. It defies the expectations that the previous films have established. And this movie, Casino Royale, does the same thing for James Bond. The opening is breathtaking. It's in black and white, first off. I love that. I think more films should implement style in that way. I think it's really bold to start the film in black and white in that way when I don't believe there's any history of that in the series. So right off the bat, it's starting a different feeling. That opening scene is excellent. It establishes lore right away when the guy says you don't have your first 2 kills yet. So right away you find out it takes 2 kills to be established as a 00. Also, to be established as a 00, it takes, there have always been the theories previously that 007 is like a moniker that gets taken up. It's not, these aren't all reboots and a new fresh 007. 007s get like ran through. And there's a few lines in this movie that also reference that. This opening sequence in black and white, though, is incredible because Bond tells the guy that he killed his man, the guy the guy reporting to him, and the guy says, "Oh, so he made you work for it." And it's intercut with that fight scene, Bond's first kill, and it's incredible. Bond is not he is not infallible. This is a fight where he gets hit. He gets cuts, and it's a real gritty fight. For me, when I was watching it, it felt a lot like the Netflix Daredevil fight choreography, in the way that each punch hits. A good fight scene, you feel the hits coming from each side, good or bad. Everything should hit. And this scene was incredible. And then the line that the guy says, the second kill is always, and he's about to say easier, and Bond clips him before he can say easier and says, "I couldn't agree more." It is so smooth. And then we always get that opening sequence for Bond, but the way they do this one is different. The guy that we think Bond already killed comes back to life to try to shoot Bond. Daniel Craig turns around, straight down the camera, boom. And the blood goes down the screen, and it's the first color in the entire movie. I think that is really cool because it's Bond becoming Bond. They tell us it takes 2 kills to become a 00, and they show us those 2 kills, and then the world comes to life. That is incredible. And then the opening sequence to this movie. Oh my God, the first action sequence in the construction site. Bond and another agent are investigating, and right away it shows you how official Bond is by how much of an idiot this other agent is. And he totally gives up their cover, and they're made, and their target starts running, and one of my favorite action sequences I have ever watched begins. This rundown through this construction site is incredible. The guy that is being chased, his athleticism is breathtaking. He's like, it feels like he's a parkour specialist. Everything he does is so quick and flowing. Whereas with Bond, from this first sequence, he always works smarter, not harder. He doesn't do the like flowy athletic parkour stuff that the other guy does. He's always figuring out the smarter thing, taking over construction equipment. One of the best shots of the movie, the guy he's chasing like jumps through a top window on a door, one of those like, I don't know what they're there for, but on top of a door when there's a window. Then Bond just Kool-Aid Man smashes through the wall. It's incredible. It is, and that's incredible because Daniel Craig is kind of a more slight frame. He's not like a giant guy hulking through a wall. He is just a badass. Like, he is so different than the previous Bonds. It's not like well kept and suave, and it's environmentally aware. That is a big point for Bond. He is always aware of his surroundings. And the conclusion of the fight scene, when it goes from the construction site into the embassy, oh my goodness, it starts to feel like a Batman sequence with like Batman running through the halls of Gotham City PD. And it ends up with Bond having his man, and then there's an embassy's worth of people ready to kill him. And he gets away. It's incredible. It immediately establishes that Bond is smart. He's smart and aware of his environment. It shows how instinctual he is. The way he gets away is so brilliant. And also, how could he have planned it? It feels so spontaneous, but he's also one step ahead. It's incredible. And when that sequence ends, we see the first scene for the villain, Le Chiffre, played by Mads Mikkelsen, one of the best actors in the world. He is breathtaking in this role. This first scene really establishes the control he has, the poise. And you know right away he's an accountant who provides banking services for freedom fighters. And he says he's been doing it for a long time. And right from the first scene with Mads Mikkelsen, you can feel the aura that this character holds. Then we get the second sequence, or the next part of the movie, where Bond goes to the Bahamas, and it's a totally different feeling. It starts to feel like a spy film where he shows up at this resort and gets his car valeted, and as he's down on his knee tying his shoe, another car pulls in and has him valet and treats him like a valet. And at first, I thought it was consequential, just something that happened. But then I realized in the scene before that, Bond has on a nice coat. And he left that coat in his car to appear like a valet so he could take a car, cause an accident as a distraction. He's brilliant. And granted, at no point does the movie confirm that was all a part of the plan, but to me, it has to, like, it, they left all those pieces there, and they do that a lot through the film to show you Bond picking things up, being observant. And the handling of the Bond girl from this scene, another defiance of expectations. They don't have sex. Bond is an assassin. He is an agent working. He leaves her. He doesn't stay and bang her. He's not trying to build a body count sexually. He's only worried about his body count homicidally. It's no nonsense and excellent. And then we get the sequence where he follows the guy. There's the whole Miami airport sequence, another gripping chase. I think one of the influences to this series is the Bourne Identity movie. That movie came out in '02, the Matt Damon film. This sequence kind of feels like a sequence from that series. This is a more grounded sequence until we start the truck chase with Bond and the hitman, not hitman, but the hired gun. And it's just great. And right before this, we had seen a scene with Le Chiffre where he's talking about an investment he has and how he knows it's going to go through. And we find out he's investing money of the people he's banking for. And when Bond stops that explosion, he cost Le Chiffre like over $100 million. It's a really great way for their worlds to become intertwined. It's just amazing. And then we have M and Bond talking, and she tells him how reckless everything he did was. And M and Bond have a really great relationship in this movie because at times she gives Bond the tough love and tells him, "We promoted you too soon. Nobody thought you deserved this." But then also the way she trusts Bond shows you her actual faith in him. And I think his respect is also there because when he breaks into her home and uses her computer for surveillance, he leaves it cracked so that she'll see it. So it's like two people both wanting the other to catch them. It's just brilliant. And then Vesper arrives, played by, I believe, Ava Green? Not Eva, Ava Green, right? Yes, Eva Green. And she is breathtaking. Her and Bond right away are established on equal footing. This isn't a character put in there, like I said earlier, to be added to James' body count, to be a damsel in distress. She is a woman who holds her own against James and challenges James, and that invigorates him right away. And I think it's really refreshing that this is a movie that is not using sex in the way that previous Bond films does. Um, it this scene between them is like two boxers exchanging jabs. It's tit for tat. It's it's just excellent. Sorry, I'm reading over my notes just to see if I had any other big takeaways from this scene. No, but Vesper overall is just incredible. I think she never gets used as the typical Bond girl, and that's really powerful. She's kind of more of a femme fatale from the noir era because she does end up betraying James like characters of that era did. And that is pretty much the end of Act 1 of the movie. It has a very clear 3-act structure, and that first structure so immediately establishes the kind of Bond we have here. And then the card game begins. The greatest card game ever put to film. This card game is just incredible to watch. There is passage of time in the director is really good at establishing the passing of time, and you see Bond figure out Le Chiffre's tell in a hand that he loses. It's kind of like how in poker you sometimes have to sacrifice a pawn for the larger game, for the end game. And that moment is huge because then Bond goes and talks to Vesper and Mathis about the tell. And that comes in big because that gets back to Le Chiffre and he uses it against Bond. So who was flipped, Mathis or Vesper? He naturally assumes it has to be Vesper. But when the movie ends, was it? And then the one iconic moment in that card game is James's drink order. A famous kind of trope of the Bond films, but this one is different. For one, he took the way he orders his drink is directly out of the Ian Fleming book. And all of the other people at the table, I think three or four of them also order a drink, and Le Chiffre is like, "Can we play poker now?" And Jeffrey Wright, who is also in this film and incredible, jabs at him like, "Oh, somebody's in a rush." And then we get back into the card game. But one of the things James says is that he plays people, not cards, and that is visible all throughout this game. Then we have our first break in the game, and it's another fight sequence. And what happens is the freedom fighters from that first Le Chiffre scene come back because they can't access their money like he said they would. So this game has been set up by Le Chiffre so that he can make the money he lost, and his debts are already coming up to hurt him because the freedom fighters are here to take his arm, but then they threaten to take his date's arm instead. And then ultimately Bond fights them in the stairwell, and it's an incredible scene in the stairwell. Again, when I say Bond struggles, he's fallible. Vesper has to get in to help him, otherwise he was about to likely get shot in the head if she didn't come in and stop him. And Bond snaps into it, "You go tell," and he's clearly in the zone, and it's just excellent. And then we have one of the most important scenes in the movie in the shower, where Vesper is in the shower, and it's clear that she's really affected by what happened, by that fight that she had to help with. And she says it's like she can't get the blood off her hands. And Bond does something that at first he licks her fingers, which you might read as sexual, but it's not. He does something that inherently might be viewed as a sexual act, but he doesn't do it in a sexual way. he does that. He licks the blood off her fingers and holds her hand and says, "Is that better?" Bond is nurturing. Bond is empathetic. As he said in the card game, he plays people, not cards. This Bond is an empath. He is a spy who understands the human condition and connects with people. That is so different from what we have seen in the past. And also, this scene, Vesper was supposed to be in her underwear, and Daniel Craig said no. She wouldn't have taken off her dress. She would have just got in the shower. And what a choice, because it's the right choice, and it adds so much. It is maybe the most beautiful scene in the movie. And then we have another poker scene that is incredible where Le Chiffre is playing Bond because he has an inside man who told him that Bond figured out his tell, and he starts to really sell it to lure Bond in. So Bond just keeps pushing, thinking he has him. And he goes all in, and he loses. He loses the card game. He got played. Again, he's fallible. And he sits there and he's shocked, and then he starts to pursue Le Chiffre, and Jeffrey Wright comes forward. And the twist there is incredible. The fact that he's actually also representing an agency, and he buys Bond back in because he knows Bond can beat Le Chiffre, but he can't because he's hemorrhaging chips. And then, oh my goodness, the poison sequence. Bond gets poisoned by Le Chiffre's woman, by his, I don't know if they're just partners, if she works for him, what it is, but she poisons Bond. And this sequence is incredible. We go into a bathroom where everything is very distorted, and you're getting into the perspective of Bond, and you're seeing through his eyes as to what he's experiencing. He's trying to make himself vomit. You see him stumbling through the street, getting hit by cars, and he calls MI6, and he dies. His heart stops. And Vesper saves him. Again, she ain't the damsel in distress. James kind of is. And she comes and saves him. And when he returns to the table, Le Chiffre looks shocked. And James says the best line of the movie. "Sorry, that last hand nearly killed me." Oh! So good! So good! And then we get into the third act as Bond. I don't know how much of the final act I want to talk about. You know what? No, for my movie reviews, I'm going to talk about it all. So then we get the beginning of the third act is the most iconic torture scene I have ever seen. They cut out the bottom of a wicker chair, sits James on it naked, and they start swinging a big knot of rope. Le Chiffre starts swinging that into James' family jewels. A pain, and Le Chiffre says, "I don't get how so many torture methods get all crazy and complex when it can be so simple." And this scene is incredible. Le Chiffre is so desperate, as we know, the audience, because we saw that his problems are already turning up, and he's having his comeuppance already because he can't pay the people he needs to pay, and he needs the money from winning this game. So he's trying to torture James, and he threatens to kill Vesper. And James then says he has an itch down there. And Le Chiffre hits him again multiple times, and James is laughing and says, "Now the whole world's going to know you itched my balls." So he clearly is still knowing he's getting out of this room. Like, he is still planning to survive, when in this moment Le Chiffre has him dead. And as he's about to kill him, in comes Mr. White. He's this shady character who's been in the background of a lot of scenes throughout the movie, and he shoots Le Chiffre in the head. We're at the beginning of the third act, and the main villain dies. It's a shocking moment. It is stunning. It floored me the first time I saw it. And then Bond gets away with his winnings, and he's in love with Vesper, and you think it's a happily ever after. And then it's heartbreak. And it shows that Vesper actually screwed him for the money. And at the end of the movie, there's this character, what's his name? Gettler? When I saw this as a kid, and even on this viewing, I kind of thought it was Lashif. I thought there were some shots that made you want to suspect it was him, but it wasn't, which is fine, because how would he have survived a bullet to the head? But then the final action sequence where Bond, and also Vesper left her phone behind before the meetup, so she probably wanted James to find them. And then the final sequence in a sinking building in Italy. It's heartbreaking. You see that James resigned from MI6. He gave up the life. And then Vesper betrays him. And he still tries to save her. He still breaks her out of that elevator. She locked herself in there so she would die because of how ashamed she was of betraying James. He saved her and pulls her out and works on her dead body. It's heartbreaking. James gets his heart broken in this movie. He gave up the life for love. This is kind of like his moment at the end of The Dark Knight when Rachel dies. Except instead of going on an 8-year hiatus, he just became more committed to his job. This movie is basically James Bond Begins, because the final scene is the first time you hear the full James Bond score. That's another thing. This score is breathtaking. They tease the Bond score multiple times throughout the movie before finally playing it when he gets Mr. White and says, "The name's Bond. James Bond." Oh, what a perfect ending to that movie. So ultimately, Casino Royale is one of my 10 favorite movies ever. I know I talked about a lot here. It's almost a half hour, but I love film so much. I love acting so much. So seeing Eva Green give the performance she gave, seeing Mads Mikkelsen, one of the greatest actors alive, who is one of the best villains in terms of like actors who play villains. He's one of the best in the business. And he's not a typical Bond villain. He's also fallible and in danger and desperate. And I loved seeing the desperation come out of him towards the end. And ultimately, the star of the show, the man who changed the way this was all looked at forever, is Daniel Craig, a casting that people hated at the time. He is why this all works. He is so grounded in everything he does, his charm. He's not cartoonishly charming like Pierce Brosnan or Austin Powers. He's really charming. And I think the way he can kind of fit in any room he's in, the way women check him out all the time, like, it's not cartoonish, it's real, it's a feeling, it's aura. So yeah, guys, Casino Royale is one of my favorite movies of all time, and I'm so glad I got to talk to you about it today. This is my first movie review on the channel. I don't think all of them will go this long. Maybe they will. I love talking about movies. So let me know what you think. Give me your thoughts on Casino Royale. I think this totally changed James Bond in the same way that Batman Begins changed Batman. It's an excellent film and one you need to watch. So thank you guys for spending time with me today. Let me know what movies you want to see me talk about next. I'm going to keep pumping these movies out. I'm going to start just watching movies and reviewing them. There's going to be a steady flow of movie reviews coming out. So let me know what you want to see me react to. Or if there's TV shows or anime or cartoons, whatever it is, let me know. Thank you guys for spending time with me. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment down below, and if you're willing, hit share. Help me reach a larger audience. Thank you. The Goose is out.